Well, first off, I'm probably going to talk about some things the others don't talk about, and I don't know what the others talk about because I don't really look at what the others talk about in the silver community per se. I do have a silver channel, more or less, but it's a hodgepodge mixed of many different things. And like I say, I realize that the metal is not the be-all, end-all of everything in your life, you know. But it's a hedge against something that can be a catastrophic problem in the markets and also the dollar. Now, we saw today sheer panic in the bond market, but it's also carried over into the Dow and the S&P and also into silver itself as we're waiting here for good news from silver at the Gaslight Cafe. But, actually, I'm going to tell you that there's other news on the forefront that has not been emphasized for quite some time. And as we're looking forward with our headlights on our bike here, as we're looking forward to what the situation's going to be in the world longer term, I'm going to give you some deal right now with FATCA. FATCA is the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. Actually, it's interesting that I'm not sure who says it in the alternative media or who's saying what exactly, but I'm aware of this law that has actually been out, I think, since 2009, I believe, that people have to report what's in their foreign tax and what's in their foreign bank accounts, or else if they don't report that to the IRS, and if IRS finds out about it, and they're in big trouble. Like the penalties are extremely steep, steeper than this hill old girl is riding up. I mean, very steep. So in other words, if you got, some bank in the UK and it's got £1,000 in it, 10 pounds British money, and you don't report it, it's like a $10,000 fine or something. It's ridiculous. But here's the catch, and see, this is one of the things where it's another thing where the dollar. I want to tell you several things actually where the dollar's going to get in trouble. It's still going to be the currency of the United States, and I know most of my listeners are from the United States. It's still going to be our currency. It's still going to be our currency. Whether, we're going to go back to the Mad Max days again or what, be riding motorcycles and, jalopies or whatever the hell it is, what things are be going here. But it's going to be our currency, okay? So let me emphasize that because some people think the dollar's going away completely. It's going to be our currency in the United States for some time. I don't know, until whatever happens that could possibly be unforeseen in the future that's catastrophic. But where the dollar is going to lose a lot of clout in the world, one is the FATCA, which is the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. And, I like displaying these pictures as just a talking point, so, if you wonder if they're somewhat related, but I don't want to bore you with charts and statistics, that's my style, okay? If you're a newbie listening to this. But FATCA is the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. And what happens is there's more sections of this act that are being implemented every year. So what's going to cause it to happen is that a lot of people are just going to dump the U.S. dollar because they want it. What this act wants to know is how many dollars you got held overseas. So a lot of people don't like this because if they find out that you're hiding money overseas, the IRS can come in there and nail you, right? The other thing is if the bank itself is not, they're going to have to take taxes out of the earnings of your money that you have in these accounts, right? Like you're getting interest or whatever it is. If those taxes are not taken out, right, and sent to the IRS of dollars interest on dollars being held overseas, what's going to happen is the bank is going to be liable for that. So the banks are not wanting to comply with this. A lot of banks overseas. So what they're doing is, well, the hell with it. We just won't use dollars for people's accounts, and we just won't let people have dollars in their accounts. There's different aspects of this Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, and it's actually another thing that's screwing up the dollar. It's interesting in that fact, too. So, there's a lot of different things going on in a lot of different ways, so it depends on how you look at the situation. The other thing is, well, we got the big smiley face here while we're riding a bike here. Um, remember Janet Yellen was talking about raising interest rates? Now, I kind of figured this was going to be more talk than reality. But since, the bond market has been imploding and it's spilled over to the S&P and the Dow, now they're talking about let's delay raising interest rates till at least 2016. You figured that one out, right? You can kind of already figure that out. Actually, like I mentioned a bunch of things before about, the debt, the number of people that have margin, buying stocks on margin. There's actually a lot of debt in the markets themselves. It's like almost at record highs where people bought stocks on margins. But there's a lot of liquidity sitting on the sidelines, which means, they're waiting for the death knell to come in and it'll scoop them up cheap, That's what I think is going on. But there's another aspect of, like, some other things. And, with the OPEC, which actually shores up our dollar itself, like what happened with Nixon. When they went up to gold standard, they made an agreement that OPEC will buy, will trade oil in dollars, and they'll also buy U.S. Treasuries with all the proceeds and profits of the money they receive from oil sales. Well, that shores up the dollar. OPEC and Saudi themselves are having trouble setting the global price for oil. So you notice, like, also when the commodities rise, which oil is a major commodity, or is the major commodity, usually the dollar gets weaker. And you notice, even though the oil is low right now and the dollar is strong, you notice the trend has been kind of reversing a little bit. The dollar's actually been very strong, Actually, we'll probably be riding bicycles when this all plays out with silver, because I think when it all plays out with silver, what's going to happen is that oil is actually going to be sky high in record numbers. I hate to say that. I mean, if it goes up to $200 a barrel, it's probably going to be over $6 a gallon at the pump, and a lot of people are going to be riding bicycles. But hey, enjoy it. What the hell can I tell you? But the thing is that just be happy. We're all in this ride together. That's what I could tell you. We got silver is not just for a get-rich investment, although it might just be that way. It's not going to be, if you catch it just right. But the dollar, like I said, Saudi is having problems keeping the oil prices at levels they want. Also, there's a splintering of the OPEC cartel. I think, one thing is actually, as a rule, cartels, actually as an economic rule, cartels actually never stay together for long, because there's always people that break away and they want to do their own thing. Now, I think the OPEC cartel stayed together a long, long time because basically it was supported by the United States one way or the other, because the interest that the United States had in OPEC was to shore up the dollar, keep demand for dollars high. Now, there's other countries, though, that are not Saudi Arabia, that are in OPEC, that are also openly stating that oil prices should be between 75 and 80. That would be a more reasonable number. But I can also see where, it's interesting because not that long ago, Saudi was saying $100 should be the right price. But, I think what happened was it was a concerted effort by not just Saudi, but also the U.S. government to slow down Russia's military expansion and ventures in Ukraine, and what their plans are in the Arctic Ocean for putting naval facilities up. So they brought the whole price of oil down and basically, knock down their coffers. But it doesn't look like OPEC can keep this up for long, especially Saudi. And a lot of other member nations of OPEC are not on a ride for this deal or keeping the oil prices that low for that long. So that's also spelling a reversal in trend for the dollar and the commodities. Although silver took a major hit today because of the markets getting slammed, and silver's at a dual. It's almost, that metal is ridiculously hard to predict, because I can always say that platinum and palladium, which are actually, like, palladium is about well, palladium is extremely industrial used. A large percent of it is industrial use. 65% of it is for cars. In the case of silver, it's got like too many different hats. So sometimes when the markets take a hit, if there's other factors that are in play, where people are fearful of the dollar, for instance, and they start going into gold, silver can go up even when the markets take a hit. It could be for various reasons. If you're fearful of what happened, uncertainty in the future of what's going to possibly happen in the marketplace, what's going to happen in the political arenas, and major conflicts in the world, people pour into gold, and silver can go up and the markets can go down. Today silver went down a lot because the markets went down, along with, of course, of overflow from the effects of the bond market, which they've been talking about. The bond market has been talked about as a bubble for a long, long time. So again, they're talking about raising interest rates. They're also talking, and people keep forgetting about the thing behind the scenes that's working against the dollar, which is FATCA, because to comply with these acts, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, a lot of foreign banks are saying, well, we just know investors will use U.S. dollars. And a lot of investors are saying, well, hell with it, we won't use U.S. dollars. Actually, Warren Buffett himself, as of almost a year ago, for the first time in I don't know how many years, he has most of his currency not in U.S. dollars. I only read that once. More than a year ago. It's not something he emphasizes. The guy doesn't tell you that much. But it was enough to tell me that, the writing's on the wall. Because, the gurus behind the scene, like you could see the guy up here on the wall, the guru, it's like they know what's going on, and they don't tell you that much. It's usually what's commonly known is wrong, what's not commonly known is right. And what is not commonly known for most people is actually about the silver. It's going to get dangerous when it becomes, almost like a fad, and everybody's out there, buy silver at any cost, the dollar's going to zero. Yeah, the dollar's not going to zero. The dollar is going to be the currency that we're going to be using in the United States, unless we get defeated by a foreign power, but I don't really see that happening too easily, because considering that the U.S. defense budget is probably bigger than the whole rest of the world combined. So, you know what I mean? I'm not going to buy into that, but the dollar is going to lose its purchasing power. So the whole game you already had from day one is about keeping silver as a hedge for when this pendulum starts swinging the other way. It looks like it's beginning to. And again, I just want to reiterate that. I guess a few of the main points was that first we saw today the bond market implode, which spilled over into the regular equities, the S&P and all that. Now, FATCA is one thing, because the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act is actually causing the IRS to shoot themselves in the foot, because what people are going to do is, instead of freaking complying with this BS, what they're going to do is not use the dollar. Period. That's what they're going to do. Because the people, if you are using the dollars, the bank is going to be responsible for sending, a portion of the, the tax money over to the IRS for any income you earned on the money that you have with them, that you have invested with them. And if they don't do that, in other words, if you don't do that, right, the bank is going to be responsible for it. So the bank is saying, the hell with it, we won't even use dollars. A lot of foreign banks are saying that. And actually, this Foreign Account Tax Compliant Act isn't going to be fully implemented till 2018. They keep delaying it a couple times, but it's just causing people not to use the dollar. The other thing is OPEC, which was always the big power of setting the oil prices, especially Saudi. Saudi doesn't look like they can set the oil prices easily as they used to be able to. They're losing a lot of their clout. The global market is just too big for Saudi. They can't even they actually can't keep up enough production to keep these prices that low, because China's actually exceeded the United States in oil demand. There's a lot of other countries coming on stronger and stronger. Even within the domestic economies of countries like Saudi, there's more demand for oil. Brazil's got more demand. Even though things are slowing down, there's a growing, underlying growing middle class that's creating more demand for oil. So, I mean, they can't keep the prices down this low. The thing is, that's actually, part of the strategy. Well, usually there's somewhat of an inverse relationship between the strength of the dollar and commodity prices. Very, very strong dollar means very low commodity prices. Very weak dollar means higher commodity prices. So you're seeing, we had the very, very record strong dollar, strongest it's been since in the 1980s, even during the Clinton administration, I think. Late 80s, that is. And it's the trend is beginning to reverse now. So, but I'm going to tell you, I think that, the stuff is really going to hit the fan coming about September. Because we're seeing the signs right now. I know that September's been one of the big freaking months they talked about on a 7-year cycle of when we have a major recession and things like that. It may be. I tend to believe that's very true, because it's not the four blood moons thing. It's just the 7-year thing that makes more sense. And the fact that something I mentioned in other videos about, the amount of people that are in debt out there, the consumer loans that we got a record number of consumer loans that are being rejected. We got more people, the biggest thing too is that the stock market is being held up by, loans. Everything's being bought by margin. It's at record, margin to equity. So that typically is a major sign that once it's a sell-off that starts, they're going to have to sell more to meet the margin calls and blah, 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 and it can just crash like crazy. So, and when that happens, Yellen's going to have to respond with super QE. So, anyway, over and out from the Gaslight Cafe here, and I just want to give you a quick update on the deal because, I found it interesting that, a lot of people, I don't think there's a lot of people talking about FATCA. That is another major death knell to foreign demand for dollars. And the other fact is that OPEC is basically falling apart as a cartel. So, that's the whole thing that's been propping up the dollar. But I got to emphasize again, the dollar is going to be our currency here in the United States for many years to come, unless something catastrophic happens where we get taken over by a foreign power. And I don't see that. Well, not with the strength of our military and the strength of arms that American citizens have. It's not going to happen that easy. It's just that our quality of life and our standard of living is going to get clobbered pretty bad. And part of that is going to be due to the erosion of the purchasing power of the dollar. And again, that's why you got silver. Although it doesn't look like it worked out yet, but it will play out. It will play out. There's no doubt about it. There's too many warning signs out there. Anyway, so just hopefully I gave you some other information, possibly that you're not getting from other sources. And actually, this is more of my livelihood trade is in this type of area. So some people think I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do know what I'm talking about. It's just that the predictability is only with God. There's no doubt about it, and I'm not God. That's the way it goes. I just know what is the axioms that move things. As far as the exact pinpoint accuracy when it's going to happen, I will never be able to tell you. There's no doubt about that, because this has been taking longer to happen than I thought too myself. I believe that, but it will happen, and it looks like it is happening. So hold on to your silver.